my digital camera, which the battery's running low on because we've been running it for so much today. Let's go live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Weather Center Live, everybody joining us on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon. We're doing our midday update. Things have been more or less lagging behind. They've been kind of taking their sweet time, and I'll show you guys on YouTube the visible satellite. And I think that's the primary reason we've had things lagging back, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It means we could just be seeing a little bit of latency in our thunderstorm activity, and things are slowly starting to initiate. We did see initiation right around that same time we discussed earlier this morning. If you happened to tune in for my earlier briefing, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CST, around 12 to 1 p.m. over here, I noticed I was looking at a lot. Who the hell is calling me on WhatsApp, man? So many spam calls. If you guys happen to tune in around 11 to 12, or this morning, we'd mentioned that our initiation time was going to be earlier in the day. We did see it, however, we're not seeing as strong of thunderstorms blossoming just yet. I do think that our strongest convection is on its way. It should be hopefully, I should say hopefully, but it should be kicking off here within the next couple of hours. We have a lot of cloud cover out ahead of this business that is still keeping the environment fairly capped off. Not as much is occurring with it at this time, but we do have a number of special weather statements out there, and I do think that our severe weather threat, we just got another special weather statement initiated in southwestern Indiana, and from here on in, I do think we're going to continue to see conditions go downhill. We've actually had a number of severe thunderstorm warnings kicking off down in Louisiana. They have since weakened, but Louisiana has seen a lot of the action as well as things have started to initiate. And then look at that! Spectacular timing! Jumped on the live stream, and we just had a tornado warning issued for Evansville, Mount Vernon, Indiana, crossing the border between northwestern Kentucky into southern Indiana. We have a tornado warned storm that just, no kidding, a couple seconds ago just went off. So that goes to show you exactly what's happening out there. This is going to be the, I think, prelim action of it. And one thing I've noticed while obsessing over our model data, and I've been genuinely obsessing over it. You can see my notes here. I have so much that I want to cover with you guys in just this hour briefing. And I'm not going to be able to get to it all, but, however, right now it looks like we are starting to see our ignition down through southern Indiana, western Kentucky, western Tennessee is starting to get going. Mississippi is seeing a lot of the good action, and then we still have our special weather statement systems down there in central and eastern Louisiana. And this is going to continue to occur as we go further into time. There's going to be a lot more of a nocturnal threat for sure with these systems as they continue to go off. A little surprised that we haven't seen as much activity kick off just yet. Yes, Ella, we'll get to Northeast Ohio, Huntington, West Virginia here very soon. You guys had a lot of preliminary action that occurred earlier today. Is Ohio going to get smashed still? Yes. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say smashed. That's definitely a bit more of a sensational remark there, but we are definitely watching for severe weather activity. We have one current tornado warning, which is right on schedule, I will say, right in the same area that we've been highlighting for a little while now. Evansville, Indiana, crossing the border of Kentucky, active tornado warning storm. And we have a few other special weather statements out there and some flash flooding that's going on. And we also I wanted to take some time to discuss the new updates on Storm Prediction Center. Very fond of how they've slowly but surely been expanding the threats here in the south. Not sure who's requesting to be in the video. The way everyone was talking, I felt like the entire state needed to hide. Now, that's the problem with the Storm Prediction Center charts, unfortunately. They can be very, very blanketed across a large spectrum of space. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a giant blob of severe thunderstorm activity. What that designation in their charts means is within a point around that 25 nautical mile radius within their designation or those color codings, you could have either isolated to scattered to numerous severe thunderstorms in that grid box. So that's why they have the highlighted area on the charts indicating a large majority of west, east, central, and southern Ohio. Right now, we are slowly but surely starting to see things kick off. I think 3:30 was an optimal time to jump back on another live stream, and for those of you tuning in on YouTube and on TikTok, Woo! I'm going to have to crack open my Celsius here in a little bit. I had a bang earlier. I had coffee just a little bit ago. Work has taken its toll on me because I've been cranking, trying to get stuff done so I can get back to you guys. We're going to be doing one more briefing tonight at 8 p.m., hopefully once everything is fully kicked off, and we'll cover everything down. And we'll probably be towards the back end of what today is supposed to look like. Shelly, thank you very much for joining us in. So, yeah, I was going to say, how close are we? Already answered your question. PM, yes, I do agree that there is a lot more activity progged for tomorrow. And you know what? While we're at it, so it's sunny in northern Kentucky. Is it going to be okay now? No, actually, Tracy, that's kind of exactly what we discussed earlier this morning. If you start to see the sun come out, that means that we are finally going to start to see that initiation and that upward vertical motion begin. And I think that's why we have a current tornado warning out there in southern Indiana. And the further west you go, extreme western Kentucky, extreme western Tennessee, and down into the southwest quadrant of Indiana, we're starting to see new stuff blossoming, new stuff on the radar. In fact, yeah, southwestern Indiana, with each updated radar scan, it looks like that area just gets a little bit more strong as time goes on. I have our composite reflectivity shared right now. And yeah, it looks like Tennessee's getting ready to get going. Kentucky's getting ready to get going. Indiana is definitely going to start getting going. And depending on how much sunshine and how much, there goes a new severe thunderstorm warning issued for Bloomington, Indiana. Severe thunderstorm warning for Bloomington. So I think right now is where everything is slowly but surely going to start kicking off. Louisville, Kentucky, you're okay for the time being. However, you're going to have to potentially shelter in place, if not at least keep a close eye out on the outside, because we have convection finally initiating just to your west and southwest, and there's a tornado warned storm almost due west-southwest of your location with a lot of strong convection starting to finally kick off. Yeah, I think we started this live stream perfect. Perfect timing on the live stream because we're finally seeing everything initiate. Let me see if I can flip you guys around on TikTok as well. I do apologize. Once again, we're doing a very, very weird, we'll call this a bimodal setup. I'll go ahead and attach you like so and flip you around so you can get into the briefing. Let's flip camera. Let me go ahead and get you guys tucked into my tripod here. YouTube folks, I apologize. I'm getting myself situated. I hope you can still hear me. Let's go ahead and get you guys tethered. There we go. All right. And so, by the way, for my TikTok viewers, we are still going to have a actual post update later today. I'm still going to update you guys on the main feed of my TikTok. YouTube, we're just going to continue to roll through these briefings. Yes, HRRR has kind of downtrended for certain areas down in the southeast. However, I don't think we're out of the woods just yet. Yes, we're going to take a look at the charts here in a second. Just want to kind of cover our bases. So for our folks who can finally see on TikTok, I will get back to you here in a second. More than welcome to answer any questions. We're just going to start talking about what it is that we have going on. Let me get my Epic pen out. By the way, let me go back on YouTube real quick. Joseph Parton, thank you extremely for the $20 donation. I do appreciate it. It gives me a little bit more oomph in my behind to keep reporting and working on this stuff, especially with as busy of a day that I've had. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm going to crack open my Celsius as soon as I get finished here with you guys. This is what we're watching for. This is our area that is going to start igniting. You can already see an active severe thunderstorm warning here, some special weather statements, and a tornado warning for Evansville. And then we also have stuff beginning to ignite over western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and this stuff is just going to continue to develop. Got another special weather system or another special weather statement in the central southern area of Kentucky. And then a lot of this stuff, a lot of this stuff down here in Mississippi and Louisiana. I'll even scroll the chart just a little bit so we can see, because it looks like YouTube can't see too well. This has also been producing some fairly strong stuff down here through Mississippi. I've been watching a few different severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing for central and eastern Louisiana, and that's going to be the song and dance as we move forward in time. But like some folks have already mentioned in the chat, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the briefing. I'm going to try to step through this as fast as I can, but as coherently as I can. So first and foremost, we're going to start with our large-scale European model. We're going to take a look at the big picture and then dial it back down in from there, especially in that we have fresh 12Z information. So this is where we sit currently. We have our deepening low pressure situated right over Illinois. That's what's going to help to continue to increase the threat for severe, if not moderate, thunderstorms around the backside of it. This is going to be your severe weather sector right there. Your parent low is going to continue to slowly churn off towards the northeast, eventually turning due north before being wrapped so heavily into the cold sector of the jet that's helping to build this system. It's going to just kind of hang out there and marinate for a while our severe weather sector kind of continues to propagate off towards the east. So this is going to be our area right now for the next few hours. We're going to be watching very closely for our strong storms. And I'm going to continue to use strong storms because I don't want to get too heavily caught in the weeds of just specifically highlighting severe thunderstorms. Moderate level thunderstorms, flash flooding, heavy rainfall, small amounts or small sized hail, frequent cloud to ground lightning is very dangerous weather conditions. We don't want to be outside during it. So we're going to just kind of stick to using the terminology strong thunderstorms for now. This is 0Z. This is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here's our frontal system moving right through the Ohio-Mississippi Valley, cutting across Indiana, getting into western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and the northwest periphery of Mississippi, starting to finally move through Louisiana. At this point in time, Iowa starting to look at more wintry conditions. Wisconsin is going to be buffeted by very heavy snowfall with maybe a small delineation of mixed wintry icy precip up there. Everybody in the plains completely shut down, not even a single chance of rain as dry air and cold air begins to wrap around the backside of this. This is where our severe weather sector is going to, I think, truthfully, the severe weather area is going to rapidly jump out in front of this system. And the reason being is if you look right in through here, I'll draw it for you guys, our system is very quickly trying to occlude. So as our cold front and our warm front continue to move further and further off to the east, notice now our severe weather sector is more or less going to be confined to the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. We'll likely still be seeing some strong storms spinning up along the border of Indiana. This is when it's going to be the main event of Ohio later on this evening. And then further off to the east, we'll be seeing stuff in western Pennsylvania, parts of West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia itself. East Central and East Central Tennessee and Kentucky are going to be seeing stuff as well, with an extension continuing along that frontal boundary as it moves further to the south and east. And then finally tomorrow, there you have it right there, guys. This is exactly what I'm a little concerned about and why I'm very thankful that SPC is picking up what I'm putting down. You can see our deep, deep, deep occluded low at this point with an occluded front wrapping all the way around the north and east side of this system. And there's our triple point low, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what I think is really, really, really going to help to reinvigorate the severe thunderstorm coverage for the East Coast, the entire East Coast for that matter. As this low continues to deepen and rapidly deepen at that, we have a 986 millibar deep occluded low and a 990 millibar low right over top West Virginia, Virginia, and Delaware, I believe. It's either Delaware or Maryland, one of the two. The mid-Atlantic coastline is what we'll say. And to put that into perspective, 990 is approaching what would be technically high-end tropical storm, if not low-end Category 1 hurricane strength. So we have a lot of mixing going on in the atmosphere, and with this, we're also going to see a strengthening in our gradient, not only at the surface, but up to 925 and 850 millibars. And that's why if we come over to our Storm Prediction Center graphics here, can you guys on TikTok see okay? Yeah, you guys can see okay. Let me turn the camera just a little bit more so you guys can see. If you guys take a look at day 2, this is our most recent update for day 2. Let me move the thing so you guys can see it on, so you guys can see it on YouTube. I'll even shrink the screen just a little bit so we have full coverage of the screen that I'm trying to brief. There you go. So this is going to be our day 2 severe risk tomorrow. And as you guys can see, the entirety of the East Coast is now blanketed with a level 2 slight risk for severe weather, with an even greater extension of our level 1 risk continuing for the Florida Panhandle, a majority of central and northern Florida, the southeast quadrants, and the eastern halves of the Carolinas and Georgia, all the way up into Virginia, getting really, really close to areas like the Northeast, just to the south of Manhattan Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, still scraping the southern periphery of Pennsylvania, and I'm full steam ahead with this. So if you guys go back to this chart here and you look at where that low is developing, whoops, I lost it. There it is. We're just going to have that warm sector and that unstable sector jump out in front of it like so. Like this. All this is finally going to be more or less stabilized. Everything is going to be turned off to the east of, or the west of, where that new parent low, triple point low, is expected to brew, and this is where your strongest stuff is going to be located. And I have been noticing some very, very subtle whispers of this in our higher res model data. I'll take you on over to College of DuPage, and we'll use the latest RAP model to show you what I'm talking about. So let's go down to the surface level, and we'll look at the theta E, for example. So This is where we sit currently: 19, 20, 21Z, 22Z, 23Z, and then 0Z. This is 8 p.m. This is as things are really beginning to ignite for Ohio, eastern Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and the northern Gulf Coast states. The upper Gulf Coast states are really going to be seeing a lot of intensification of our thunderstorms more than likely at this point. We have our cold polar air breaching the northwest and the north quadrant of the low, spinning right in through here, and here is going to be our dominant, warm, unstable sector. But I want you guys to pay close attention primarily to these shades of color right in through here, these darker shades of color. And I'll actually use a different pen because I know you guys probably can't see that too well. This area right in through here, if you pay close attention to this shading of color, notice how we have this very, very sharp, narrow theta E ridge back to our parent low as it starts to begin its occluding process, its maturing phase. If you go just a couple more timestamps in time, notice how that very quickly pinches off, and it's almost gone. By 0304Z, this is approaching the midnight hour. Notice how now our new severe sector is more or less confined down to this general area. Our strongest theta values are now well down into Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, the Florida Panhandle. So I do think we're going to have a window of opportunity to where we're going to have convection really occurring through Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio before it turns into more of a mechanically driven event, thanks to our triple point that is somewhere right in through here. You carry it out just a little bit further in time, and you really begin to see that triple point cyclogenesis occurring. And notice how that new warm sector, that new warm front, I'm watching this general area right here if you guys aren't tracking what I'm putting up or picking up what I'm putting down. This area here, notice how it screams off towards the north and east as you slowly transition through the slides here until finally, bam, for tomorrow. Look at how our most unstable air is right over top where Storm Prediction Center has us highlighted for that level 2 risk, all in through here with a lot of really good theta values, bona fide tropical values down over the central and southern Florida peninsula. So I'm very, very thankful that they're finally picking up what we've been putting down here on the Weather Center and seeing it too. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, I'll say, we're definitely still ahead of the curve for tomorrow. This is now 18 Zulu tomorrow. Or no, excuse me, 15Z. This is our 18Z run, valid for 15Z tomorrow. So around lunchtime, our unstable area is going to move off towards the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, and that's going to be where our new area of development likely occurs. Everything else has been shut down at this point. So for my folks in the Midwest, the southern Great Lakes, the Ohio and Mississippi valleys, we just got to ride out the rest of the day today, and we will be fully squared away, and we'll be all said and done. Let's take a bit of a closer look. Let's go to our 18Z HRRR. Let me switch the AOI here so we can get a better look. So this is where we stand now, and as I mentioned, this is it. This is initiation time. This is 19Z, 20Z, 21Z. These are going to be all of our discrete cells more than likely firing off. This is where everything is finally becoming uncapped. All these tiny little blips of dark red and the little outlines around them are going to be where your strongest supercells are likely to occur. And I've noticed that there's been a bit of a trend towards an eastern Indiana, southern Indiana, before finally pressing into Ohio. So Ohio, folks, you're going to have to watch as we go closer and closer into the early evening hours of tonight. Let me go ahead and take you guys off of this so I can bring you back and start talking to everybody, start answering some questions. All right, let me flip this around. There we go. All right, so that is going to be what kind of shakes out with this. I have a lot more information that I'd like to pass along to you, but I do think as we go through the rest of the day today, and let me bring back my radar Omega, see if we have anything new developing out there. Not as of yet. Tornado warning still in effect. No new watches, or no new warnings, I should say. We're in kind of the downward descent from this point on, is how I'd like to describe it. I haven't really been keeping tabs on the YouTube chat, excuse me. There's no hatched risk for hail. I live in Medina, Ohio. What should my plan be? Whereabouts is Medina, Ohio? Amy, please give me just a bit of a compass rose estimate. Are you northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast in the state of Ohio? And then for my TikTok folks, Tennessee is getting ready to go right now. Western Tennessee is going. Western Kentucky is going. Southern and southwestern Indiana is starting to go. They just discontinued the tornado warning out there in southern Indiana, which is good news. So far, we've only had moderate level thunderstorms, which are classified by that special weather statement that you see on radar, the blue areas, the blue polygons, as some of our other reputable meteorologists would call it. How's it looking for Columbus, Ohio? Columbus is not seeing anything yet. Again, tonight, guys. Tonight, you're going to start to see stuff. Right now, we have everything beginning to finally initiate, really take hold. We had some earlier development towards the southwest portion of our frontal boundary where the sun had actually peaked most. And now it's finally starting to bleed its way up that frontal axis, and we're beginning to see convective initiation, that thunderstorm development in western Tennessee, western Kentucky, strong storms moving through southern Indiana, which means that Ohio, you're up next. So within the next 2 to 4 hours, Ohio is going to start seeing the worst of it. Everybody in Ohio, everybody who's in central to southern Ohio, I'm going to draw a straight line from Lima, Mansfield, just south of Akron, south of Cleveland, south of Toledo. Everyone from about the Columbus Point and further south especially really needs to pay attention closely to what's going to happen later on this evening. We've had a bit of a delayed start, we'll say, for our folks in the Midwest. It does look like things are finally starting to come to fruition. I'm seeing a lot of really good development on the radar imagery right now, and I'll take you over to the visible satellite as well to check exactly what ends up happening or what is going on with our sunshine, because that's going to be the big determinant to get our surface level activated. How's Plainfield, Indiana for the rest of the night? Whereabouts is Plainfield? Is that more southern or northern? Because if you're in the southern half of Indiana, you're definitely under the gun for some strong stuff as we speak, getting ready to really kick off. We already had a tornado warning down in that area, and we're going to try to stay live for another 35 minutes to see exactly what else takes shape here over the next, during my lunch hour. Northeast Ohio, you're going to be okay. Northeast Ohio, our frontal system, or I should say our warm sector, is still right over top the central portions of each of these states. It is trying to lift a bit further to the north, but the one thing I'm very curious to see is how much further it lifts to the north, because currently you can still see indications of some cold air damming over the lee or on the lee of the Appalachians right here. You see this kinking in your stationary boundary? That shows you that cold air, or cooler air, I should say, is still trying to funnel in along the lee side of the Appalachian Mountains that run right in through here. And because of this, that tells me we have cold air up to the north of where our warm front is. So I don't think we're going to see too much more movement out of this warm boundary. And as I've been mentioning, if you guys refer back to older TikTok posts, this warm front is going to help to really identify where our severe weather sector is going to form. Notice how our Swiss is, our severe thunderstorm action. This is the development right in through here that we're watching very closely for southern Indiana, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and then down through Mississippi and Louisiana. This is your sector of severe weather, and wherever this warm front can finish stabilizing itself or establishing itself, that from there and further south is where your strongest stuff is going to pop off. All right, so we're just going to kind of stay live at this point. Wow, we had a huge flash flood warning pop off just now for eastern Ohio. So for my Ohio folks in the TikTok live right now, no severe weather currently, not as of yet. And truthfully, I almost wonder if this flash flooding is going to help to create a little bit more stability out there, because we have a huge area now identified for flash flooding in eastern Ohio, just to the east of Columbus. I'll zoom in here as well for my folks watching on YouTube. Wheeling, Ohio. Let me zoom in just a little bit further. Wheeling, Weirton, New Philadelphia, Zanesville, New Martinsville, all these areas just to the immediate east of Newark and Columbus are underneath a flash flood warning. I think this is old residual stuff that tried to flare up and maintain itself earlier this morning and has since washed and blurred together, and now it's just producing very, very localized heavy amounts of rainfall. Indiana, we have a small little trough appendage that's dangling down from Chicago down through the border, or running parallel to the border currently as we speak, of Illinois and Indiana on the west side. And those don't look like they're going to be doing very much, but we have a new Swiss out with those as well, special weather statement. Can we see Northeast Ohio for later tonight? Yes, absolutely. So Northeast Ohio, if we're talking Canton, Akron, and Cleveland, I do think you're going to be in the lesser of the severe weather threat. Now, granted, just because I say lesser doesn't mean you take your eyes off the game, take your eye off the prize. It just means that we're going to see the stronger stuff mainly confined to where that frontal boundary is and down towards the south. Pittsburgh, I saw that comment race through the comments here. Pittsburgh, I do think, is going to have a run at seeing some strong stuff. Right now, Pittsburgh is under a flash flood warning, and you have a lot of heavy rainfall headed your way right now. So before you start worrying about severe weather, keep a close eye on the heavy rainfall that's going to be coming through your area here in the next 30 to 45 minutes with the way these systems are boogalooing off to the off towards the east. 2 new severe thunderstorm warnings for southern Indiana running parallel almost entirely to the Kentucky-Indiana border right down there, and we have some stuff blossoming over Louisville right now. So we probably are going to see some more special weather statements with those cells blossoming over Louisville. There it is. I lost my camera again. Son of a beehive. All right, YouTube viewers, I apologize. My camera just died again, so I'm going to be killing the video feed. You will not be able to see me, but you'll still be able to hear me. We'll still be narrating. We're still live, so don't freak out if you see my camera suddenly freeze up. Dayton, Ohio, you're going to have to watch here over the next few hours. You have severe stuff blossoming towards your southwest. I would give it about an hour and a half to max 3 hours before some of this strong stuff starts to get into Dayton right now. We have lots of thunderstorms beginning to fire off close to Nashville, Tennessee, south of Clarksville, Tennessee, to the north of Jackson, Tennessee. Memphis is in the clear for right now. There's nothing going on in Memphis currently. Evansville just got pummeled by a line of storms. Louisville, you have stuff forming to your immediate south, southwest, and to your west. There's a nice quasi-linear convective line beginning to build up, and we have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings with separate cells embedded within that line of thunderstorms that are moving off towards the east. Florida being a long, thin peninsula with a panhandle offers an immense variety, but yes, it does. It's almost like we have 2 to 3 different small-scale climate zones in our Florida peninsula, and the panhandle especially doesn't help that we have such different environmental features. You have very densely wooded forests up to the north. You have a fairly urban setting, a more urban setting like a cityscape industrial area, I feel, in north central Florida or North Florida Peninsula, central Florida, and then in the south it's all marshlands, swamps, etc. So very, very interesting how the topography of the Florida Peninsula influences our weather. And on top of that, we're surrounded by water, so that also helps to change the weather pattern on a local scale. West Virginia, we've got a special weather statement moving through there. Yeah, these storms are finally starting to get going. We definitely picked a good time to go live. So southern Indiana, we have a new severe thunderstorm warning in southern Indiana. That's going to be our hot spot. That area is going to be the one to watch for potential tornado warnings. Bloomington, Indiana, and further south of central Indiana, southwest Indiana. Louisville, you have about an hour or 2 before this stuff is right on top of you as well. Unless it's maybe sooner than that, we might be starting to pick up some forward speed with these storms as well. Western Tennessee, I'm surprised we don't have anything on these storms just yet. They're not the most impressive, but they're starting to build. Same thing with western and central Kentucky, southwest of Lexington. For everybody in the chat on TikTok, I'm not disregarding you guys, but Ohio has not started just yet. Ohio, as I just briefed, eastern Ohio is under a flash flood warning. We have a lot of heavy rainfall falling out there, but these storms are still coming together and manifesting themselves to your west and southwest. Your time frame is going to more than likely be from 5 p.m. EST to 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CST, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As we get closer to sunset, that's when all this activity that's brewing off to the west is finally going to make its way further in and begin to tap into the warm sector that's left over from our kinked warm frontal boundary. Indianapolis, you guys are okay in Indianapolis right now. Everything is off to your south. Everyone's still going to be asking. I know, yeah, everyone is going to be asking about Ohio. I'm trying to kind of generalize Ohio right now. We have too many point-based locations being thrown in the chat, and unfortunately, I'm one individual, so I'm trying to just give you generalized timestamps of when everything's going to happen. Terre Haute is not seeing much of anything right now. Terre Haute is doing okay. I saw that randomly come through the chat just now, and you guys are doing okay. I'm going to have to ask you politely to stop smashing Chattanooga in the chat over and over and over again. Chattanooga right now, let me see, let's go down and see what we have going on in Chattanooga. Nothing just yet. Everything is fine. You're down in southeast Tennessee. Your time has not yet come through just yet. I was fixing to say those thunderstorms look like they were speeding up. Yeah, they definitely are slowly but surely picking up momentum, and I think that's because our surface low is continuing to deepen. We're just going to see an acceleration in our environmental flow and our steering flow along the south and east side of this storm. So that's why these are slowly going to help to pick up a little bit of forward speed. Sheesh, I am sorry, guys. I wish that there was an easier way to do the chat on not Instagram, TikTok. Central Kentucky's doing okay for right now. It depends on how close you are to Lexington. You have a lot of severe action off to your west. Central Kentucky is fairly quiet. We have isolated storms moving through there right now, but nothing that warrants a special weather statement or a severe thunderstorm warning. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I'd mentioned earlier. If you were in here for the earlier briefing, I'd mentioned that Dayton, Ohio is coming later on. There's nothing right now. We have nothing but old, heavy rainfall that's still moving through Dayton. Well, not moving through Dayton right now, but now is out to the east of Dayton in Columbus. And we definitely don't clout chase on this profile. That is for certain. There's been no fear-mongering, any kind of sensationalism in here. That's why I'm even trying to avoid any kind of significant jargon or terminology. But, it's coming. Definitely don't want to jinx yourself over there in Dayton. Ohio is still behind the curve just a little bit, though. There is not much happening in Ohio outside of flash flooding, which, I mean, is still definitely something you want to watch for in the Ohio area. J2 Ace, if you were in Atlanta, also NAM and HRRR is downtreaded, but I don't think they removed the enhanced just in case. I really don't think they're going to remove the enhanced either. I still do believe that we have a very strong possibility of seeing some thunderstorms really brew up down there, especially as this system continues to deepen and occlude. And once we finally see that triple point low, if and when that really begins to develop as well, that's only going to reinforce what kind of severe dynamics we have along the East Coast and the Southeast. Jackson, Tennessee, not right now. No, you guys are doing okay in Jackson. You have stuff forming around you. It's kind of bubbling up, but nothing immediately in your vicinity coming towards it. You have stuff that's to your north, south, and east, but it's all moving off in this general direction. Pittsburgh, nothing else yet. You have heavy rain coming your way, though. No severe, but heavy rainfall for now. Cleveland, I do believe, is going to be A-okay. I'm not too sure we're really going to see much of anything in Cleveland. Cleveland is just too far to the north, and we're right up against the Great Lakes there, so I'm not too sure we're going to see a lot of our significant thunderstorm activity make its way up there. I do think we might see an enhanced risk, or at least we might figuratively see an enhanced risk for Florida with as strong of a setup that we have building potentially for tomorrow. Blounceville and Kingsport, Tennessee. So let's see. Let me zoom in on that area. Right now, we're not seeing a whole lot happening. Right now, there isn't too much going on. There's things trying to get their act together near Dixon, Clarksville, Nashville, Franklin, Columbia, Tennessee. This is going to be the central and western side of Tennessee. And again, for our folks out there who are asking questions about point-based locations, everything is starting to your west. If you live in Ohio, if you live in Kentucky, if you live in Tennessee, and down, into Alabama, everything is starting to your west and moving east. Starting west and moving east. So if there's nothing happening in your area right now, you got to look to your west. You'll see this stuff coming up either from your due west or your southwest direction. Terre Haute is not necessarily done with storms, but currently there is nothing really forming in your direct vicinity. There's nothing much upstream of your area. And when I say upstream, that means there's nothing forming and traveling in your general direction. There's stuff just to your north and there's stuff to your east, but the steering flow is not going to allow it to backtrack. Wind advisory. For us here down in Florida, PM, is that what you mean? Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of it, guys. Between now and especially 5 p.m. EST up until sunset, we're going to have to see exactly what shakes out. This is kind of game time. All of our models do spell doom and gloom. All our models are definitely showing a lot of discrete activity that's going to form up, a lot of good tornado potential, a lot of strong storm potential for especially convective winds, larger hailstones that could definitely damage property, lots of insurance claims potentially with that as well, unless you can shelter your vehicles under covering in a garage. But so far, I will openly admit, despite the amount of activity that I've been looking at in the models and what is expected for today, this is just a little lackluster. So I'm personally thinking we're just latent. We're behind the curve. We have a lot of rainfall that's still marinating out there that's helping to keep our low levels stable. But the sun is definitely up. There's a lot of storm chasers up there in the Midwest who are watching the sun come up, watching that warm front physically begin to move its way further and further to the north, and that's what's going to help get these thunderstorms going. And it won't be until that low can move further and further up into northern Illinois, start moving into the greater Great Lakes area. That is when our low-level jet is really going to wrap around the base of the low, moving through that trough. And that's another thing, too. We got to look at where the short wave is currently. Let's go over to our analysis data and take a look at what we have there on College of DuPage. And here on TikTok, I might bring you guys over here in a second. Let's see what our winds are doing right now. So 500 millibars. All right, so our short wave is starting to slowly make its way through there, but we have a secondary vortice that's, it looks like it's kind of going negatively tilted right over Illinois and Indiana, and you're getting right up underneath our difluent flow at 500 millibars. What does 300 millibars look like? Let's take a look real quick. So yeah, our short wave, it looks like our short wave is still deepening. I believe we have to wait on this extra little bit of jet energy that's over the Dakotas, Nebraska, getting ready to wrap around the base of our system to help really elevate our low-level jet capabilities. Right now, our low-level jet is just not all that impressive. It's coming up, though. It does look like our winds are starting to strengthen over parts of northern Mississippi, Alabama, western Tennessee. But as of right now, our low-level component with the wind flow is not the most impressive. What does the theta E look like? Let's take a look at what our surface theta E actually look like. Yeah, so it's slowly trying to squeak up there. We're finally starting to see warm frontal movement since about, since about 16Z earlier today up until now 20 Zulu. We're finally starting to see that warm sector move up. We're getting a little bit more of that advection right along the leading edge of our cold front, kind of turning into a bit of a fire hose. When you put your thumb over a fire hose, we're seeing that momentum beginning to finally pull our most unstable air to the north. It is definitely right up where we're starting to see that convective initiation in southern Indiana, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and where we've had some strong storms already occurring in Louisiana and Mississippi. So it's slowly but surely happening. I can see the moisture feed and the instability beginning to be pulled out of the Gulf of Mexico and up through the Ohio, Mississippi valleys into the lower Midwest region. Northern Kentucky, you probably are on borrowed time right now. I do think that as we continue to move forward in time, I would say in about 2 to 3 hours, you're going to get some precursor thunderstorms that are starting to form up, might get some snap, crackle, pops of lightning and thunder, but right now there is nothing overtly concerning on radar in the immediate vicinity. We still have our severe thunderstorm warnings in southern Indiana, and we're really starting to see some very, very small localized cells manifest themselves into western Kentucky, southeastern border of Illinois, western Tennessee, and we still have stuff brewing up that's dropping special weather statements in Mississippi, northwest Alabama. So timetable for this, I want to say between now and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when things are either going to go all the way through or this whole thing is going to be a bust. Because I'll openly admit to you guys, my gut deep down is kind of thinking this might have been, over-anticipated, but we shall see. We're definitely seeing the thunderstorm activity beginning to take shape, and the big factor here is just how much sun are we going to get between now and then. It's already 4:08 p.m. We have about 3 hours and 45 minutes, we'll say, of daylight remaining to get this surface heating going, and we're already past the maximum heating of the day. So I don't know. It's anybody's best guess right now. We're just kind of in a holding pattern. There isn't too much in the way of modeling that we can look at right now. Nashville, Tennessee is okay for now. Nothing on the immediate horizon just yet, but it will be coming. I don't know if the worst is over. It depends on where you are, Lizzie. It depends on where you are. The worst is definitely over for our folks in most of Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. Louisiana is almost done. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that just crossed the border of Louisiana into western, southwestern Mississippi. Lexington, Kentucky, the worst is definitely not over. You have a lot of stuff, a lot of activity moving in from the west. You're right in that lull right now. So if the sun is shining out there, then that definitely means that we could have some strong stuff forming up along the leading edge of that frontal boundary as it continues to move through. I definitely agree with the tornado watch for Ohio. Our models just may be behind. Maybe our low system, because that's another thing you guys got to remember too, for sure. And I want to tell this to my YouTube folks and my TikTok folks. When I say things like mature wave, mature low, occluded low, what that tells me is the system is slowing down. When you have things like stable waves or unstable waves, they're being carried through the pattern very vigorously, and that's what helps them to deepen. And in this case, since we're already going into the mature phase of this low pressure's life cycle, that means it's going to slow down. So we might not see a lot of our really robust dynamics settle in until a little bit later in the day. And then we have to play the game of whether or not the convective heating of the day or the daytime surface heating that was left over during the mid to late afternoon is going to be enough to sustain this stuff once it transitions fully to just mechanically lifted thunderstorms, which is your fronts, your large low pressure systems lifting this stuff up without a lot of the help of daytime heating. Oh yeah, I do think, like I had mentioned earlier when we were looking at the stuff with the theta E and the low-level ingredients, I do believe we're going to have a really good shot at some strong stuff down here in Florida. I really do believe that. Did they update again? Let's go ahead and take a look. Hold the phone, everybody. We're going to go ahead and trend back over to Storm Prediction Center and see if they've updated their graphics. Let's see. Whenever it decides to load. I'm not seeing an update. This is valid. This just came out about maybe 17Z. This came out earlier today. Definitely came out earlier today. I can't do universal time. They just put the old moderate back. Oh, on the day one? I see. Yeah, they've shrunk our moderate zone. It's because we're running out of time to get this stuff to activate. That's why. It actually does look like they've shrunk our moderate for Ohio. The eastern side of Ohio is no longer in that moderate level 4 out of 5 risk, but you guys are still blanketed by that level 3 out of 5. And again, upper periphery of Ohio, it rapidly drops off. So northern Ohio definitely really quickly loses that threshold of seeing some strong stuff. It's going to be, like I've been saying, like I've definitely been saying, the southern halves of all of our Midwestern states. We saw it in Illinois yesterday. We're seeing it right now in Indiana. We're going to probably see it in Ohio. I'm sticking with my guns. I think the southern halves, if you live in the central portions of Indiana and Ohio and south, that is where you're definitely going to see your strongest stuff. The moderate risk includes about 8 million people. We've got Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky, Dayton, Ohio in your moderate risk. Enhanced risk is going to include Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, Akron, Ohio, Montgomery, Alabama. And a large area in between that. I'll turn over the folks here on TikTok as well so you guys can get a look at this as well. And I'll draw it a little bit. I'll animate it. So this moderate risk range has shrunk a little bit. And again, where that warm sector develops, I do believe from this line, oh my goodness, I got to get on the ball with my drawing. Here we go. From this line, not going to do that either. Jesus, David, stop it, stop it. Draw with the curvature of the earth. From that line and off to the south is going to be your greatest risk for stuff that's going down. And Carly, to answer your question, the risk is not necessarily decreasing. They've shrunk where our strongest potential storms were going to happen. Laura Rose, that's not a good sign to tell you the truth. Not a good sign to tell you the truth. If the sun is shining in your area and you have not yet been hit, that is not necessarily a good sign, because what that means is, as we mentioned in this morning's briefing, our sunshine is starting to heat the surface of the earth. All that residual moisture that was left behind from stuff that had happened, or I should say concluded early morning to sunrise, is going to start to lift, and you're going to bounce back from all that stabilization, and that's what's going to help to ignite your thunderstorms. Oh, shoot, I'm terribly sorry. My YouTube viewers are all lopsided. There we go. Live, Central Florida, I do think is going to have a really solid shot at some strong stuff tomorrow. Moderate or greater thunderstorms. I do believe that up until now, Storm Prediction Center has underestimated the type of coverage we could see tomorrow with this frontal appendage. Cincinnati is beautiful now, too. Yeah, that's your warm front moving to the north. That's your warm front getting ready to move over. Or not getting ready, but is starting to move over. So that means that now it's only a matter of time before stuff really begins to ignite. We got a new special weather statement in central Kentucky, just south of Lexington. And we have thunderstorm warnings activating in western Virginia, or West Virginia, central West Virginia. And still have some stuff trying to get its act together into the extreme western border of Kentucky, western Tennessee, new severe thunderstorm warning in northern Mississippi. We've got popcorn-like severe thunderstorms popping off right now. There is really no designated area. Like you had said earlier, how close are we? We're no longer multimodal. We're definitely one singular mode here. Everything is kind of going off at the same time. West to east. The clearing trend is occurring west to east. And for my folks out there mentioning where you are in Ohio, it makes sense you're seeing the sunshine because you have all that precursor stuff slowly but surely raining itself out off to your east, headed towards Pittsburgh, south of Canton, where your flash flood warning is in effect, and that's why we have stuff blowing up to your west. So Cincinnati, Dayton, within the next hour or two, you're going to have stuff right on top of you. Louisville, Kentucky, you're going to have stuff right on top of you as well, coming in out of the west. Everything's happening to the west, folks. Everything is happening to the west, and that is just going to continue to bleed down that frontal axis, and we're already starting to see it in Mississippi, headed towards northern Alabama as well. That's going to be your rebounding of the atmosphere. If you guys were able to tune in earlier this morning, I'd mentioned that the recovery process of the atmosphere, you're going to have all that rain overnight, early morning. As the sun comes up, those clouds are going to burn off, just like you'd see with, you ever wake up on a foggy morning and the fog lifts, turns into that gray low cloud, and then burns off. That is your reset. That is the diurnal or the day-to-night cycle of the atmosphere. You had all that stuff overnight, rain itself out. That energy was dispersed down into the low levels of the atmosphere. As that sun comes up, it's going to turn into like what figuratively would look like a pot of water. It's going to start bubbling, and all that steam, obviously that's not literally what's happening, folks. That's why I'm using a ton of air quotes, is going to start rising up. And we're going to finally start to see things really begin to pop off. Thankfully, no tornado warnings just yet. We had the one in the extreme southern Indiana, but nothing else right now. We just have a lot of severe thunderstorms beginning to take hold. Still an active severe thunderstorm warning moving through southwestern Mississippi. That's a big one, too. That one has a lot of really good reflectivity to it. Moving through Natchez, just got out of Natchez. That thing might try to spin. That looks like it might try to go tornadic. If not, it's dropping very, very big hail, that's for sure, and probably strong convective winds. Tomorrow definitely looks like it could get very sporty here in Florida, by the way. I was digging into what the HRRR, what the NAM 3 kilometer, and the RAP or the RUC have identified for central and northern Florida, and all the models are very, very close together in right around between 15Z to 21Z. Here in the state of Florida, we could have anywhere between 1,600 to 2,000 joules per kilogram, between about 600 to 900 joules of D-CAPE or downdraft CAPE, with some of our model SKUTs actually saying large hail and tornadoes are going to be the risk for tomorrow. Definitely with those D-CAPE values between 800 to 1,000, we could definitely see some strong winds off of this stuff as it moves through. It'll be a quasi-linear convective system, so it'll be like a straight squall line blasting through the Florida peninsula, and that's what's going to track through the rest of our Gulf Coast states, and we'll have to watch for embedded development along the leading edge of it. Stuff's really aggressively getting going. Pardon me, I'm going to need water here in a second. I'm going to have to cut the live stream in about 2 minutes. I'm running out of time. I have to go back to work here in a moment. Stuff's really aggressively firing southern half of Indiana. Just to the south now of Indianapolis, you have a new thunderstorm warning. Severe thunderstorm warning. Still, forecast is verifying immaculately. We have southern and central Indiana. I'm telling you, our states up there just to the southern Great Lakes are going to be cut in half. North side might not see too much. We will get a little bit of northeast bleed over into Ohio. I think Indiana, you're really going to have to pay close attention to the south of Indianapolis and right up to about the greater Indianapolis area. Cincinnati, it is almost closing time. Dayton, Ohio, it is almost closing time. About an hour and a half now. It looks like those storms are trying to pick up forward progress. They're trying to move a little bit faster. They're already through Bloomington. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can give you some geographic locations. So yeah, they're already through Bloomington. They're headed for Columbus, Indiana. Louisville, you're on the western periphery of that stuff. It is not in your city limits yet, but you do have a severe thunderstorm headed your way right now. And there's still stuff further off to the west in Kentucky, near Madisonville, Owensboro, Hopkinsville, to the east now of Paducah, right along the border of Kentucky and Illinois. Terre Haute, for our folks out there watching on TikTok, because I've seen that name pop up quite a bit, you're in the clear right now. I don't see anything forming up near you. I think you're going to be okay for the time being as well. I really don't project we're going to see a whole lot of activity in western Indiana. A lot of it is happening in south central, moving towards the southeast and east side of the state, and then Ohio is going to get ready to get started as well. So it is all going to be downhill from here, folks, and we will be back once again at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, over the next 3 to 5 hours is when the worst of the activity is going to be unfolding. I can't really say to a point where it is going to be occurring because all these storms are popping up pretty sporadically. There really is no definitive line just yet. We have a whole bunch of different systems popping up, all different locations at once. Solid right mover going through West Virginia right now, moving to the right of the overall steering flow. So that's a strong storm in West Virginia, just to the north and east of Beckley. But folks, don't go anywhere. We will be back once again for a full-fledged live stream tonight at 8 p.m. I do want to sincerely apologize. I genuinely mean this to my TikTok viewers. It's a struggle. It's a real struggle that TikTok won't allow me to stream like I can on YouTube. I wish I could show you guys what it is I'm looking at and just take everyone through a consolidated brief, but I do the best that I can. Lord willing, the faster we can get to that 10,000 follower mark, I guess that's the threshold or the milestone that TikTok requires before you can actually get your stream key and start putting it up simultaneously with other platforms. So if you guys could be so kind and generous, please share the TikTok profile, share the live streams around, please. It would be such a tremendous help, not necessarily for me, but for you guys, because I want to start doing consolidated briefings. And yes, Amanda, excellent question on YouTube. We will take the back end of tonight's live stream and finally talk tropics. For our folks up there in the Midwest, you don't necessarily have to tune in for that. That's mainly going to be catered for our folks along the coastline in Florida, the Gulf Coast, to the Caribbean, as a matter of fact. Back into tonight's briefing, once we get you squared away in terms of the severe weather, we'll move into tropics. And I'll make the determination of when we move into the tropics once we can finally get a full lay of the land of what's happening out there. But we will definitely be back at 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CST. I'm sorry that I got to get pulled away to go back to work here in a moment, but I made sure to take an extended lunch. I clocked out for you guys. Clocked out, got a lot of work done first half of the day. I clocked out, took a little bit longer of a break so I can come back and touch base with everybody. Worst is starting to happen. This is where we hit the peak of the roller coaster and we start going down. Now, I will tell you, looking at all the different models and all the different updates that we've had, how sharp of a descent remains to be seen. It's definitely going downhill now, but we aren't realizing the full extent of it just yet. We're watching closely in western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Indiana. And again, to recap, right about now, it's 4:22 EST, 3:22 CST. Between now and 8 p.m. is going to tell us a lot about how serious, I was going to say fierce, Sears, and combined words. That's why for a second there, I'm not a snake. That'll tell us quite a bit of how significant and severe this situation is going to be, and we just have to keep our fingers crossed, and I'll definitely keep you guys posted. I am tired, but we're going to keep working. We're going to keep working for you guys, and we will touch base once again at 8 p.m. tonight. Please, again, I have another update that's going to be hitting the feed at about 6:15, 6:30 for the TikTok, so if you have questions, if you have comments, drop a comment on there, drop a comment on my old post. Join us for the 8 p.m. live stream if you can. And yeah, we will definitely get back in touch with you guys. Same thing with my YouTube folks. JF, really appreciate that $5 donation, buddy. Thank you so much. It genuinely means a lot, especially having taken some unpaid time from my work to come and touch base with you guys. So I'll tell you the truth, that donation really hits the heartstrings for sure. It really makes me feel good. I'm not going to lie. But, all right, folks, TikTok, I got to go. I got to say bon voyage for now, hitting you with the genuine military salute. We'll be back to you guys at 7 p.m. CST, 8 p.m. EST. We'll talk soon. Everything is coming from your west. Everything is coming from the west. If you're in Ohio, it's to your west. If you're in Indiana, it's to your south. New severe thunderstorm warning just outside of Indianapolis right now, as a matter of fact. I just saw that pop off. Everything in Kentucky is building to the west and moving east-northeast. If you imagine the mid-Atlantic states and the Ohio Valley, everything is forming here and moving like this. East-northeast. It'll be there over the next few hours, and conditions will start to go downhill, and hopefully we won't realize as much of a threat as we were initially expecting. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning in western Kentucky. So yeah, these storms are definitely starting to build. These storms are definitely starting to build, and we will touch base with you guys here in another few hours. I can promise you that. So we'll see you again soon. In the meantime, this is Weather Center Nazario signing out. Same thing with you guys here on YouTube. We will talk to you again very soon. This is really going to be the momentum here on the channel. We have a lot to dig into, not only because tropics are right around the corner, but also because we just have a lot of severe weather expected for the rest of the month and into May. So we'll talk to you guys again soon. I'm going to make sure to charge my camera as well. So this way, whatchamacallit, I don't lose the camera again. But we'll talk to you guys again very soon. We'll speak again. Stay safe. Keep monitoring if you live in the areas afflicted by this severe weather, and we'll be back at it at 8 p.m. EST. But until then, this is Weather Center Nazario signing out.